Thanksgiving revelation, Dad's shocking decision to sell 50 years of family legacy, and unexpected betrayal. Emily Thompson's heart raced as she turned onto the old gravel road that led to her family's century-old farmhouse. The weight of nostalgia was almost suffocating, memories of laughter and warmth echoing through her mind. But as she parked, a gnawing unease settled in her stomach. But nothing could prepare her for the truth waiting inside. Selling the farmhouse is the only way out, Tom's voice echoed in her mind, an unwelcome thought that tangled with her own professional frustrations. For years, she had poured herself into her work, an underappreciated historian struggling to gain recognition. Now, standing before the house that represented her family's legacy, it felt like both a sanctuary and a prison, a place that could just slip through her fingers without warning. As she stepped inside, her father's face looked older, the lines of worry etched deeply across his forehead. It broke her heart to see him this way, but selling the family home? The very space where her 5 generations of ancestors had shared meals and stories? How could he? She wondered, half wanting to shake some sense into him. The emotional urge clawed from her gut, filling her with a hollow desperation. Could her family really let go of all that? Before they sat down for dinner, the family tension was palpable. She couldn't shake the rising anger and bitterness, a counterpoint to her father's determination to start anew. Emily felt torn, a battlefield raging within her. Was she supposed to stand with her father, aligned with his ambitious dreams, or cling to the fragile threads of family memories that defined her? The internal conflict twisted her thoughts like vines, squeezing tighter the more she tried to breathe. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As dinner began, she sensed the inevitable eruption of her family's unsaid opinions. The clink of silverware echoed loudly, complemented by her grandfather's silence, a chilling reminder of the weight tradition held. The table felt less like a gathering space and more like a courtroom. Emily recalled her childhood, the comforting smell of turkey mingling with stories shared over mashed potatoes. How could they abandon this? The table erupted in discussions, voices overlapping, tension boiling beneath the surface. Emily's hand curled into a fist, her anger against her father growing. But then, in the corner of her eye, she spotted something: the worn leather cover of her grandmother's diary. It was an artifact she had long forgotten, desperate to understand the past that felt suddenly so significant. If she could just grasp the essence of what it meant to be part of this lineage, perhaps she could avert the impending disaster of losing everything she held dear. In her heart, a new resolve began to take shape. As the argument intensified around her, she clutched the diary tightly, its pages potentially holding solutions. Would she find answers to the emotional turmoil clawing at her soul? Torn between the future her father envisioned and the legacy inscribed in those pages, Emily realized that she had to uncover something poignant, something that could shift the narrative entirely. But as debate escalated around the table, Emily knew time was running out, and soon, she would have to choose. Would the revelations in her grandmother's diary guide her, or would her family's dreams of a fresh start crush the delicate thread of the past? Emily's fingers brushed against the cracked leather of the diary as her heart raced. Within its pages, she sensed the weight of her ancestors' wisdom, their trials, and the very essence of her family legacy. Yet, as the arguments at the dinner table engulfed her, she could hardly focus on the potential revelations waiting to be discovered. The tension spiraled. Words were flung like daggers, each piercing blow another reminder of how deeply divided they were. In the chaotic swirl of dialogue, Emily's thoughts drifted back to her father's choices. What had brought him to this decision? She struggled against the rising wave of frustration that he could discard their family's history so easily. But the diary, the answer to her looming questions, was within reach. She had to see what her grandmother had written. Perhaps there was a lesson or a hidden story that could resonate with their current situation. As soon as dessert was cleared and tension loosened slightly, Emily excused herself to the living room, cradling the diary against her chest. The thick pages felt warm, almost alive, as she opened it cautiously. The faint aroma of ink and aging parchment danced through the air, wrapping around her in comfort. She began to read, losing herself in the narrative woven through her grandmother's thoughts. The first entry spoke of resilience during hard times, detailing how her grandmother had faced overwhelming challenges to maintain the farm during the Great Depression. There were stories of courage, love, and sacrifice, the same qualities that had coursed through generations. This was a narrative of survival, one that held the power to shake the foundations of her father's decision. As she delved further, Emily stumbled across a passage dated in the 1980s. It highlighted a familial conflict, a similar struggle over the future of their home. Her grandmother had expressed doubts about whether to modernize or preserve the old ways. The echoes of doubt mirrored her own now, igniting a flame of understanding. And there it was, a decision made in love, a commitment to legacy that was both stifling and liberating. A sense of calm washed over her. Perhaps she could navigate this treacherous path her family was on by rallying behind the values her grandmother had cherished. Could she challenge her father's vision, not with anger, but with the legacy of resilience and commitment that molded the Thompson name? Resolved, she closed the diary, the words still shimmering in her mind. Emily had to find a way to present a case not just for preserving the farmhouse, but for embracing the lessons it represented in their lineage. She could frame her argument as a means to honor their family's history, a bridge connecting their past to the future, rather than a weight dragging them down. As she returned to the table, heart pounding with purpose, she felt an electric charge of determination coursing through her veins. It was time to confront not just her father, but the choice their family was on the brink of making. "Dad," she started, her voice unsteady yet firm, pulling the attention of her family, "we need to talk about why this house is so important to me and to all of us." But as she took a deep breath, she saw the fire in her father's eyes flare, the room tense with anticipation. She knew the path to this confrontation would not be easy, and it could make all the difference. What would her father say? Would he challenge her view or open a door to understanding? The moment hung in the air, thick with potential. Emily braced herself for whatever came next, knowing that her choice had been made. Now she would have to live with the consequences. Emily's heart raced as her father's gaze bore into her. The air felt electric, charged with unsaid words and the weight of family history. "Why do we need to hold on to this place?" he began, his tone defensive yet weary. "It's just bricks and mortar. Times have changed. We need to move forward." She swallowed hard, resisting a surge of anger. "But Dad, this isn't just a house. It's our home, our connection to everyone who came before us. It's where we celebrated life's milestones," she urged, searching for the right words. "Remember our Thanksgiving dinners, the laughter echoing off these walls? This place has stories, memories. It's part of us." He shook his head, frustration etched across his features. "Emily, you're romanticizing it. You can't live in the past forever. What about our future? Think of the money we could make. The upkeep is draining. It's a burden." His voice trembled slightly. Was he wavering, or was it merely the pressure of the moment? Her resolve solidified. The diary's revelations burned in her mind, igniting a fire of determination. "Maybe it isn't just about the burden," she countered, her voice rising slightly but steady. "It's about our heritage. People fought for this land, sacrificed everything to keep it alive. Don't you feel that? We owe it to them to honor their struggle." His eyes narrowed, disbelief mingling with a glimmer of something softer, regret. "What do you want me to say? That keeping this farmhouse is going to solve all our problems? It won't. Not to mention, your brother doesn't care." "He's in agreement with me," he pressed, dissatisfaction bubbling in his tone. "Then maybe we need to change how we talk about this," Emily said quickly, sensing the growing divide threatening to fracture their already tenuous conversation. "This isn't just about money or the farm's condition. This is a choice about who we are. We can adapt and keep the legacy alive." Why can't we find a middle ground? Silence enveloped the room, thick with unspoken words. Her mother's worried gaze flitted between them, unsure how to interject. Emily, people shouldn't feel attached to things. They're shackles, they hold you back, her father said with an edge of desperation, as if pleading for support against an unseen adversary. Progress requires letting go. No, Emily bristled, the past and future colliding within her. Letting go can mean losing parts of ourselves. You taught me the importance of our family history, of standing firm against adversity. You can't just erase it. Her father's face hardened for a moment. This is about practicality. You need to see that what you're holding on to is unrealistic. Emily's heart sank. He had taken refuge behind logic, an impenetrable wall. But she sensed a weakness. Is it unrealistic to want to preserve what makes us unique? She pressed, willing the words to resonate with him. If we discard everything just because it feels inconvenient, what will future generations have? Stories? They'll be forgotten. Will be forgotten. A flicker of uncertainty crossed his face, a crack in his armor. I just want what's best for us. You have to trust that, he whispered, but his tone lacked conviction. Best for you or best for all of us? She challenged, the question hanging between them like a pendulum. Tension thrummed in the air, but Emily felt her footing steadying. She was digging deeper than just the struggle over a property. Her fight was about identity, about choice. The legacy her grandmother had etched into the diary was pulsing through her veins. As despair washed over her thoughts of impending defeat, a spark of determination ignited. Perhaps this clash was not only about saving a building, but about reshaping their understanding of family. What if I can show you how we can both preserve our past and build a future? She asked, her voice now softening. Let me prove that there is value in merging tradition with innovation. Let's not lose sight of the love that built this place. A moment passed, and she grasped at the fragility of hope. What would her father's next words reveal about his regard for their legacy? As an uncomfortable silence blanketed the room, Emily sensed the tide shifting, readying itself for a greater confrontation. Would he embrace her terms, or would the struggle deepen into further divisions? The answer loomed just beyond their words, daring to unveil the challenges that lay ahead. Emily stood on the precipice of uncertainty, her father's silence ringing in her ears like a tolling bell. This was not merely a standoff over property, it was a test of her resolve, her identity, and her commitment to her family's legacy. As the gravity of the moment settled, she felt a surge of urgency. The course of her life felt irrevocably tied to the outcome of this confrontation. What if I could present a plan? The words slipped from her lips before she could second-guess them, incubated in newfound confidence. She had spent countless hours thinking about how to marry the old with the new. What if we transformed part of the farm into something that can generate income while preserving its essence? An Airbnb, perhaps? We can share our history and make it sustainable. Her father's brow furrowed, skepticism knitting his features together. An Airbnb? You think turning our home into a hotel is the answer? He snapped, disbelief punctuating his voice. The room felt smaller, the walls pressed in as their disagreement morphed from abstract sentiment into tangible plans. Not just a hotel. It could be a legacy project, she countered, recognizing the moment as her opening. We could create themed stays that reflect our family history stories from the diary brought to life. Imagine visitors experiencing the warmth and love we've had here. That sounds romantic, Emily, but it's unpractical. His voice was flat, yet she detected a flicker of intrigue behind his defenses. You want to bank on nostalgia? What if no one shows interest? Then we adapt, she shot back, her pulse quickening. It will be a learning process. We could even involve the community, local artists, historians. Everyone could benefit. This is about collaboration, not isolation. Emily knew she was treading a fine line. Each word had to pull her father closer without overwhelming him. For years, she had watched him shoulder the burden of grieving the past while fearing for the future. Yet here he was, her greatest ally rendered silent by doubt. He crossed his arms, the tension in his posture giving her pause. Could he be as resistant to her ideas as he was to change? Yet behind his furrowed brows, she saw a flicker of consideration. "You're talking about a lot of work, Emily. Are you even prepared for that kind of commitment?" "Yes. I've spent too long waiting for opportunities to present themselves. This is my chance to prove I can lead us into the future while respecting where we come from." Her voice was steady, blending determination with a sense of urgency. "What if it fails?" He pressed, his eyes narrowing, seeking cracks in her confidence. "What if it succeeds?" She countered, daring to step into the fray with a bolder stance. "This isn't just about the farm, it's about courage. Courage to dream, to hope, to embrace what it means to be a part of this family." The silence stretched again, but this time it was weighted with possibility. He studied her with an intensity that flickered between challenge and acknowledgement. In that moment, Emily felt the stirrings of a shift like a seed planted deep in the ground, pushing through the earth towards the sunlight. "Maybe you're right. Maybe we can do both," he finally spoke, his voice softer, almost contemplative. But his gaze remained cautious, a protective instinct still lingering. Emily's heart raced not just with hope, but with the fear of the unknown. What would this actually take? Before she could contemplate further, her father continued, but it won't be easy. "You need to really show me you're invested in this, or I'll never support it." Was this a challenge or an encouragement? She steadied herself against a wave of mixed emotions. "I will. I'll put together a full proposal. I need your support to make it happen, a family project." The corner of her father's mouth twitched, a reluctant ghost of a smile. "Fine. Let us see your plan." Emily breathed a sigh of relief, but anxiety simmered just below the surface. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, yet she had what she needed, the glimmers of her father's approval and a burgeoning understanding of herself. The first steps towards crafting her vision lay ahead, but challenges awaited. Trusted allies might also become foes, and hidden secrets from her family's past could threaten to unravel it all. As she prepared to dive deeper, her heart raced at the thought of what lay beyond the horizon. What untold truths about her family's legacy would surface as she embarked on this course of action? Emily stared at the blank page in front of her, the weight of the challenge pressing against her chest. She had promised her father a full proposal, a blueprint that would not only persuade him but also serve as her own declaration of intent to reshape their family's legacy. Yet, each stroke of her pen felt daunting, like pulling teeth through her own uncertain resolve. The sun was dipping low, casting long shadows across the kitchen as she poured herself another cup of coffee. This space, filled with the remnants of her family's history, the photos on the wall, the rustic wooden table, felt simultaneously familiar and increasingly distant. She pushed the empty mug aside, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "You can't just want change, you have to plan for it," she muttered to herself, determination tightening her voice. Planning required more than just inspiration. It involved extensive research and a clear vision. She turned her focus back to the proposal. It would necessitate financial projections and marketing strategies, but also soul. She could practically hear her father's skeptical voice in her head, demanding substance over sentiment. What did she know about running a business? What if she stumbled? The thought made her insides knot, but she swallowed the fear, recognizing it as a part of the process. Each successful venture began somewhere, often with fear sparking transformation. She began outlining key components: pricing, targeted audience, and unique experiences based on their family stories. The warmth of their past could bridge to new futures. As night fell, she leaned back, breathing deeply, running her fingers through her hair while staring at her notes covered in a flurry of thoughts. It was more than just a business idea, it was an invitation to remember and celebrate. She needed to connect the emotional legacy with practical applications. Time slipped away, the hours lost in contemplation and planning, and soon it felt as though she was more than just a daughter trying to convince her father. She was stepping into an entrepreneurial role, testing not only her skills, but also her resilience. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. In the ensuing days, she set up meetings with local real estate specialists familiar with Airbnb launches, but each conversation ignited the spark of uncertainty anew. What if the community didn't care about the history? What if the charm she envisioned didn't resonate with visitors? Each day surfaced its own set of challenges and self-doubt. As she walked through the old barn one evening, the remnants of tools and machinery rusted in the corners. She felt the decisions her ancestors had made, but she also sensed the fear that something was slipping away. She imagined their stories, the resilience in the face of changes the generations had fought against, and she could almost hear them whispering strength, their spirit resonating within her. Emily grew keenly aware that this project was more than just a rental business. It was a chance to redefine what legacy meant for her family. It was about preservation, authenticity, and a willingness to adapt. Yet, as she sat down to refine her proposal, a chilling realization surfaced. She wasn't just battling her father's reservations. She was grappling with her insecurities, the buried narratives that had shaped her doubts. She needed not only to present a plan, but also to confront the fear of inadequacy that had crept into her thoughts. The path demanded hard truths and perhaps even discoveries she was not ready to face. The urgency pulsed through her veins. She had to confront her own narrative, and that would require courage more than she had ever summoned before. Weeks passed in a blur of drafting and revisions, each iteration stripping away layers of doubt until she felt a burning drive to finally present this vision. Yet, just as she was ready to schedule a meeting with her father, an unexpected call shattered her focus. "Emily, it's Mom. We need to talk." "Your father, he made an important decision." The gravity of her mother's tone gripped her heart, the conversation hanging in the air heavy with unspoken fear. A shiver ran down her spine. What could be so important that it shifted the ground beneath her burgeoning plans? The moment of revelation was approaching, and she could not quell the tightening knot in her stomach as she realized this was more than just project management. The foundations of family and future were now at stake. Emily's heart raced as she processed her mother's words. Sell the family home? A place steeped in memories, where every corner echoed her childhood laughter and scraped knees, now threatened by a simple yet monumental decision. The significance felt like a punch to the gut, driving the breath from her lungs. She stared blankly at the coffee-stained notes scattered across the table, the messy outlines of her proposal seeming to mock her now. "Mom, what do you mean?" Her voice trembled, an inappropriate mix of confusion and denial swirling within her. "It's not just the house, Emily. Your father believes it's time for a new beginning, and that includes letting go of everything." Her mother paused, sadness clinging to her words, including the farm. Emily's stomach twisted. The farm wasn't merely land, it was their legacy, woven into family traditions that defined who they were. She recalled gathering with her siblings for harvest dinners, feeling the warmth of their shared history. Could it really be lost forever? Why no? She tried to mask the shaky resolve with a sharp edge of argument, hoping to snap her father out of this impulsive decision. "What has changed?" Another beat of silence echoed through the line before her mother responded. "He says he wants to downsize and invest in our future. But, Emily, I think part of him wants to distance himself from the past." The conviction in her mother's voice ignited something fierce within Emily. In a whirl of emotions, fear, anger, resentment, she battled against the wave of despair. She had spent weeks crafting a proposal centered around revitalizing their legacy, and here was her father threatening to erase it all. Just as she felt the spark of determination ignite, another thought darkened her resolve. Do I even have the authority to stop him? The shame of feeling powerless clawed at her. How had she landed in this predicament where her plans, her aspirations, felt obsolete? Her mind scrambled, thinking once again of that proposal, not just a business plan, but a manifesto of hope. The urgency intensified within her. Now, it wasn't merely an ambition to start a business, it was a fight for her identity, bolstered by her determination. She decided she couldn't be passive. "I need to talk to him," she thought, rarefying the air with her decision. Emily could feel a rising tide of conviction wash over her. If there was a chance to remind her father of what the farm had meant to their family, she would seize it. That night, she made a list. A strategic plan to confront her father. She would bring up the memories, the stories that linked their lineage to this magic place. Perhaps she could inspire him to see the value in preservation rather than abandonment. The thought of arguing against his wishes filled her with trepidation, but she realized that this was not only about the land, it was about challenging the narratives that imprisoned them both. As she fell into restless dreams, her thoughts revved like an engine, fueling her resolve. What would it take to transform his perception? The next day, with the weight of her own ambition pushing down, she mapped out her arguments, the benefits of their project, potential profits, the importance of family history. She would come armed with data and heart. But in the back of her mind, anxiety thrummed a gnawing question. What if he doesn't listen? Silence echoed in response, and she wrestled with the implications of failure while preparing to knock on a door that could lead to everything changing. By morning, she felt herself ready to face her father, thoughts spinning with desperation and resolve. This is more than just business, she reminded herself. This is family identity. Emily steeled herself, face set. She would stand her ground, but as she paced towards their dining room, she could feel the cracks beneath her own convictions preparing for a confrontation that could very well unearth the family's deepest conflicts. As she turned the corner, she found her father seated at the table, newspaper in hand, and the expression on his face shifted. Her stomach again. It wasn't just determination in the air. It was the kind of tension that felt like a match ready to spark a wildfire. "Dad," she started, voice quaking slightly, "we need to talk about what you've decided," but as she felt the pull of confrontation draw closer, her heart sank with the looming question, what if this conversation shattered more than just their plans? What if it suffocated the last remnant of their family's legacy? Emily took a deep breath, steadying herself as she approached the table. The warmth of the sun streaming through the kitchen window would have been comforting, but her tension tangled her stomach into knots. Uncertainty coursed through her. This was more than a conversation. It felt like the meeting of two opposing forces destined for conflict. "Dad," she repeated, taking a cautious step closer. Her father's eyes, previously lost in the pages of his newspaper, now met hers with an unreadable expression. She hesitated, searching for the right words to encapsulate the storm within her. "Can you put that down for a moment? I need us to focus." Without waiting for him to respond, she placed her proposal meticulously organized documents onto the table. The papers rattled slightly, mirroring the sudden rush of adrenaline that surged through her. "I've been thinking a lot about everything you and Mom said last night. About selling the farm." His brows furrowed, a flicker of irritation crossing his features. "Emily, I don't think this is the time for your latest ideas. We've made our decision." "No," she asserted, voice trembling with intensity, but laced with determination. "This is about more than just ideas. It's about who we are as a family. The farm is our history, our legacy. It's connected to our future." He leaned back in his chair, arms crossing over his chest like a barrier to her argument. "Things change, Emily. You can't cling to the past forever." Yes, she could feel the walls rising between them, but now wasn't the time to back down. "But you don't have to erase it either. There's potential if we rethink this. We could make it work." Her voice rose, driven by passion rather than strategy, and she quickly inhaled to regain control. Each word had to cut through the weight of emotional detachment. "Like what? A vineyard? A retreat center?" He scoffed, flipping the pages of the newspaper again, the sound echoing like an unwanted rejection in the quiet room. "Yes, those are examples, sure, but it's more than that. Don't you remember the harvest festivals? Our family traditions? They brought us together." She fought to gather her memories, the warmth of laughter during the cold fall evenings, the smell of freshly baked pies. "We can invite people in to share those experiences. We could honor who we are while adapting." Her father stared at her, unblinking, and for a moment, the world melted away, just the two of them in that tense space, separated by unyielding choices. The seconds became an eternity, and Emily could feel her heart hammering against her chest. "Dad," she pressed, "we could create something beautiful out of our history, instead of burying it." He folded his arms tighter and let out a long sigh. "Emily, I'm not interested in playing what if. I want to simplify my life." There was a finality in his tone that made her chest ache. All of her carefully crafted arguments felt flimsy in the face of his resolve, and the doubt threatened to drown her. Yet, above the tide of discouragement, a flicker of defiance ignited. But what if simplifying means losing everything that makes us who we are? Her voice wavered, but carried a strength she hadn't known she possessed. Then, something in his gaze shifted. The hardness softened, revealing a glimmer of vulnerability. For the first time, he was no longer the unwavering patriarch, but a man plagued by fear and uncertainty just like her. "Emily," he said slowly, "it's complicated. You don't understand. But I want to understand. I want to help." The entreaty spilled from her lips before she could think. Each word took her deeper into uncharted territory. As they locked eyes, a realization firmed in her mind. She wasn't merely fighting to preserve the farm. She was striving to reclaim their connection, a bond frayed by years of silence and sorrow. She was ready to peel back layers of familial expectations that had suffocated both her father and her dreams. "Let me show you how this could work," she continued, the spark of strategy igniting within her. "We could do this together, create something that honors our past and supports our future." The intensity of the moment hung palpably, challenging both their vulnerabilities. It was time to confront not just her father's decision, but the structural foundation of their relationship. As he opened his mouth to speak, Emily braced herself. The tension in the air thickened, promising either resolution or irrevocable change. "Perhaps I can learn a thing or two," he finally said, a cautious tone emerging from his once rigid facade. But just as hope flickered in the space between them, she noticed a shadow crossing his eyes, a flash of resignation. "But I can't promise it'll change anything." "What if?" she began, only to feel the weight of the moment shift like sand beneath her feet. The determined path she believed she was forging suddenly wobbled. Nothing was ever simple, she knew, and the conversation had barely scratched the surface. The question remained, glowering in the depths of her mind. Was she ready for the potential fallout, the impact of igniting hope only to possibly face the ashes? Outside, the sun shone brightly, cutting through the tension like a blade. As Emily prepared for whatever storm might follow, she had reached out for connection, but the chance to strengthen or shatter their bond loomed ahead, like a tightrope over a chasm. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting elongated shadows around the farmhouse, Emily sank into the old wooden chair at the kitchen table. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee lingered in the air, offering a brief respite from the emotional turbulence that had spun through her day. She meticulously organized her notes, her fingers tracing the fraying edges of a page filled with ideas. Each word was a desperate plea for understanding. A part of her wanted to retreat, to erase the confrontation with her father, but another part, a stronger part, demanded she stay present with her thoughts. Maybe this was the pivotal moment she had longed for, a chance to discover the depths of her own capabilities. She needed to formulate a plan, not just to persuade her father, but to genuinely connect. The echo of his voice reverberated in her mind. "It's complicated. You don't understand." What did he think she couldn't grasp? The fear that lurked behind his resistance was clearer now. It wasn't just the farm. It was a lifetime of choices and regrets, the fragility of their bond wrapped in layers of unsaid words. She had to confront the crux of the issue, not only through fear of loss, but from a place of shared hopes and dreams. Drawing in a deep breath, Emily leaned forward, pen in hand. Her first action was the most crucial. She'd map out a structured proposal. There would be no rushed emotions. This required a clear strategy. She envisioned reworking the farm into something sustainable and inviting. A small winery paired with local products. Everyone enjoyed a good glass of wine on the porch at sunset. Events that brought people together while celebrating their heritage. As she began to jot down potential partnerships with local vineyards and ideas for communal gatherings, she realized this task reflected her broader aspirations. These were not just proposals for the farm, they were reflections of her desire to build something meaningful, to weave her passion into the fabric of family legacy. Her father needed to see that her vision was not just a rebellion against his choices, but a continuation of their shared histories. With a new sense of determination, She crafted a bold opening statement for their next conversation. It had to evoke memories, inviting him back to the warmth of their childhood together, re-establishing that emotional landscape where they could both meet. She would also emphasize the financial opportunities, painting a vivid picture of sustainability that could ease his complexities about change. Just then, a knock interrupted her reverie. It was her mother, stepping into the kitchen with a knowing smile. "What are you plotting over there, Emily?" "Just working on my proposal, Mom," she replied, the words flowing out like an earnest confession. She hesitated for a moment, gauging her mother's expression, searching for support. "I want to talk to Dad again. Maybe I'm trying to show him we can adapt. That we don't have to let go of the past to move forward." Her mother pulled a chair beside her. "He'll be hard to convince. You know how set he is." Emily nodded, feeling the weight of truth settle between them, yet her resolve only firmed. "But what if there's a hidden opportunity we're missing? What if I could show him there's a way to honor his fears while integrating new ideas?" Her mother's gaze softened, as if seeing the spark in Emily that had always held potential, now growing into a flame of resolve. "You know, when I was younger, I had dreams too. Places I thought we could go, things we could try. Your father was always the practical one, but I've learned it's important to chase those dreams." There, in that small kitchen illuminated by the fading light, Emily recognized the hidden gems of wisdom carried through her mother's words. This was more than just about the farm. It was about rekindling the fire that had dimmed over the years between her parents and the dreams that might still breathe. With a newfound sense of purpose bubbling up in her chest, Emily made mental notes on her next steps. She would gather more insights, digest the values her parents placed on tradition, while also crafting modern relevance. Not just for her father, but for the family. The road ahead was blurry, but she could feel the path shifting beneath her feet. It was time to face her father again, to articulate this amalgam of nostalgia and innovation, to confront the struggle of letting go while embracing what could be. As she closed her notebook, she realized there was a deeper revelation waiting to be unearthed, something about herself that remained yet undiscovered. What was at the core of her intrinsic drive? Before she had time to dwell too deeply, she felt a flicker of inspiration strike. The next conversation held potential synergy between hope and reality. Emily could sense it. The moment to extract knowledge from both her parents, understanding their foundational values while asserting her vision, was finally approaching. And with that thought, a powerful question loomed in her mind. What if she could combine the old with the new in a way that would unite their family once more, facing challenges together instead of apart? Tomorrow's meeting beckoned with both unease and hopeful anticipation, ready for whatever intricacies would unfold next. Morning broke with a muted glow, the gentle yellow light spilling into the kitchen as Emily prepared for the conversation that loomed ahead. She sipped on her coffee, its warmth seeping into her as she reviewed the notes she had meticulously outlined the night before. Each bullet point, every phrase, felt like armor against her father's steadfast convictions. She needed clarity now more than ever. Today was about more than confrontation, it was about bridging the gap that had widened over years of silence. The farm wasn't just a plot of land to her. It embodied memories of laughter, family gatherings, and shared dreams. She had thought about how to present her vision not as a critique of the past, but as an evolution of it, a legacy that could adapt rather than fade. That realization fueled her sense of purpose, and she felt it pulsing within her like a quiet drumbeat, urging her on. Emily glanced out the kitchen window, watching a solitary crow make its way around the barn, seemingly desolate but determined. What stories did that bird carry? How many struggles had led it to this very moment? She felt a kinship with it, standing on the edge of her own fight. The vulnerability of that sentiment didn't escape her. This path might fracture things further, but risks often birth change. After checking the clock, she gathered her papers and made the short trek to the living room, where her father was already seated in his favorite leather chair, observing the morning world in silence. His weathered face was etched with lines of worry, and Emily wondered if he sensed the shift in the air, the weight of unspoken words pressing down on both of them. "Morning, Dad," she greeted him, her voice steady yet warm. He nodded without looking up, his attention fixed on a scrap of newspaper. A moment of silence lingered, thick with their shared tension, and for a moment, doubt crept in. Was she ready for this? "Can we talk?" she said, taking a seat across from him, her palms resting on her notes, exposing her vulnerability, yet armed with conviction. "What about?" He finally shifted his gaze, eyes narrowing slightly as he met hers. "I've been thinking about the farm, about us." She paused, searching for the right words. "I believe there's a way to honor our past while also moving forward." He leaned back, a tired sigh escaping him. "You talk about moving forward. Do you realize what it means to me?" There was a flicker of something, fear? Anger? Emily couldn't tell, but it encouraged her to press on. "I do, and I respect that. But change needs to happen if we want to maintain it. I want to build on our history, Dad. Picture a vineyard, not just a place to grow crops, but a beautiful haven for our community. It can bring people together, create sustainability. It will breathe new life into what we have." His expression shifted, and in that instant, Emily sensed an opportunity, an opening she hadn't necessarily anticipated. "You want to play with dreams while I'm trying to keep this place alive. You don't understand what's at stake here," he thundered back, steel creeping into his voice. "Maybe I don't," she conceded, her heart racing against the rising tide of conflict. "But what happens if we do nothing? What if we lose everything?" He interrupted, frustration coloring his tone. "Your mother had dreams too, but they don't always mean a thing at the end of the day. Reality kicks in. But isn't this farm built on realities and dreams, Dad? We can hold on to our roots while branching out." With each assertion, Emily could feel the fire building within her. There was no room for passivity in the face of her father's fears. She would exist right there, willing to confront even the darkest, most buried truths. She could see it, a flicker of understanding stirring in his eyes. He was wrestling with the weight of past mistakes and insecurities, fears transmitted down through generations. "What if I could demonstrate that there's a market to be had? That potential revenue could stabilize the farm's future?" she offered, her voice softer now, emerging from a strategic position into one of shared concern. He paused, and in that silence, filled with her steady heartbeat, she recognized the real work ahead, not just making a proposal, but opening a dialogue, igniting a raw confrontation of values. "Maybe," he finally responded, his voice low, "maybe we can talk more about this." But it wouldn't be easy in that complicated moment. Both a challenge and an opportunity hung in the air between them. Emily felt something shift, a foundation laid for renewed dialogue. As they talked more about the possibilities, curiosity danced in her stomach. What if her father really was willing to listen? What other truths lay buried, and what would come from challenging not just perceptions but inherited fears? The day had opened like a delicate blossom, leaving room for honesty, yet deep in her mind, she questioned if they were truly ready to venture into the complexity of reconciling their differences. The thought settled in her mind. Tangled with her earlier reflections, a new conflict emerged. How would she truly navigate the balance of innovation and tradition in her push to unite their fractured family? Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. This realization added another layer of urgency. Would they be able to confront past grievances while forging a path forward? As the sun rose high over the farmhouse, Emily braced for whatever decisions lay just beyond the horizon. The next morning dawned crisp and bright, as Emily stood at the threshold of her childhood home, heart racing with a confident determination. Today was the day she would present her proposal to her father. After days of sleepless nights and countless revisions, she had imbued her business plan with the essence of their family legacy. Each element interwoven with love, history, and a vision for the future. As she gathered her notes and made her way to the living room, she felt an electric anticipation in the air. The sun streaming through the windows illuminated the dust motes floating about, a living reminder of the history that rested within these walls. It was time to confront more than just the impending sale. Today was about their identity as a family, the threads that connected them to the generations before them. "Dad," she began, her voice steady as she approached him at the dining table, where he was absorbed in the newspaper. His eyes flickered up, a hint of curiosity mingled with the familiar shadow of skepticism. I have something meaningful I need to share. He nodded, placing the paper aside, his brows furrowing ever so slightly. All right, what is it? This isn't just a business plan, she stated firmly, unfurling her meticulously prepared documents. It represents our family's legacy and how we can honor it while adapting to the future. I want us to explore transforming the farmhouse into an Airbnb. We can share our rich history while generating income that supports our dream. For a fleeting moment, she saw his facade crack and uncertainty that flickered across his features. Encouraged by the glimmer, she pressed on, detailing the financial projections she had researched, the potential partnerships with local businesses, and the unique experiences they could curate reflecting their heritage. This can be a turning point for us, Dad. We can keep the farmhouse alive, all while embracing the changes around us. Imagine people coming here to experience our story, the history of the Thompsons woven into every corner. His brow creased further, weighing her words. But you're focusing solely on nostalgia, Emily. What if it fails? What if it's too much work? I'm prepared to invest that work, she responded, her voice rising with passion. This is not about preserving the past for its own sake. It's about merging who we were with who we can become. We can create a narrative that attracts visitors and brings life back into this place. Inhaling deeply, she revealed a critical element of her plan, the community engagement aspect. We involve local artists, historians, make it a collaborative effort. This can become a meaningful space for everyone, reinforcing our connections rather than tearing them apart. The silence stretched between them, dense with unspoken fears and hopes. At last, he leaned forward, the tension encircling their conversation softening slightly. Emily, have you thought about how hard it could be? This isn't just about running a business, it means opening our home to strangers. There's a risk. Yes, there's a risk, she acknowledged, meeting his gaze with unwavering resolve. But isn't there always risk in holding on to something precious? If we do nothing, we lose it all. I refuse to let that happen. In that moment, Emily recognized an undeniable shift, how she, the daughter, was no longer just a vessel of her family's past, but an active architect of their future. Your comprehensive approach is promising, he admitted, his tone more contemplative. However, you need to demonstrate your commitment beyond just words. You must show that you can handle the responsibility. Every challenge she faced, every drop of anxiety, began yielding to newfound determination. I will, Dad. I will create a plan meticulously, involving research and marketing strategies, just like I did for this proposal. I won't let you down. Finally, his resolute demeanor began to wane, unveiling a hint of vulnerability. Maybe, just maybe, we could explore this. In that moment, the tension dissolved into fragile hope, and Emily felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Here was her father, displaying a willingness to listen and consider a new path. It was a testament to their growth, a willingness to challenge old narratives, to reconsider their relationship with the past in favor of forging a shared future. As the conversation unfolded, Emily witnessed not just her father's hesitations ebbing, but also an unexpected courage and pride unfurling within herself. She spoke passionately, painting vivid illustrations of what could be, and the fear of inadequacy that had once ensnared her began to melt away. Within hours, what began as a confrontational pivot morphed into a partnership filled with collaborative spirit. They huddled together over the dining table, sketching out new ideas, brainstorming potential plans that blended innovation with heritage. Frustrations that had long simmered beneath the surface were now bubbling toward a common goal, and Emily felt the tide shifting, the alchemy of familial bonds reactivating. As afternoon light faded into shadows, she walked away knowing she had transformed the dynamic not just between her and her father, but also within herself. Emily had emerged not only as an advocate for the family legacy, but also as a catalyst for change within her family, a profound moment of personal victory. Her journey wasn't just about saving a property, it had become a journey of reclamation, a renewal of trust, understanding, and legacy. She had taken a stand, built a bridge amid the chasm of conflict, and solidified her identity in the process. And as she closed the door to the farmhouse behind her that evening, she felt solid confidence and recognition of her purpose pulsating through her veins. Alongside the challenge ahead, there was a budding relationship with her father grounded in newfound respect and open dialogue, a testament to her growth that she would carry with her always. The moment to show your support is now. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep making a difference. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Comment below your reactions and theories about this inspiring journey.